Hi, you might be wondering what's up with this say it louder image. It's simple. Images speak to me. I'm obsessed with them. They inspire me. They tell me stories. And I love telling stories. This image tells me the story of writing something powerful, of writing something that matters. And I think when we write, we should raise our voices. We should say things louder. And that's my goal for this semester, for you, that you become the writer you are, that you grow in confidence. So you really can say something that matters to you, and you can say it louder in a way that helps people hear what you mean. That's my goal. And you might be hesitant. You might think to yourself that you're not a writer, but I'm going to disagree. I've been teaching RWS 305 for a while. I can say with confidence that my students in 305 can write. They can say things. When I give them opportunities to write about the things that matter to them, it turns out they have a lot to say, and they can say it pretty well. And so here we go. But before we go any further, I want to share a land acknowledgement with you. You might have heard these before, where an instructor will stand in front of the class and acknowledge the landowners, who are the indigenous peoples that come before us. And I think it's important that we do this. I think that it's important that we remember where we come from. And so I want to go ahead and continue that tradition. We stand upon a land that carries the footsteps of millennia of Kumeyaay people. They are a people whose traditional lifeways intertwine with a worldview of earth and sky in a community of living beings. This land is part of a relationship that is nourished, healed, protected, and embraced the Kumeyaay people to the present day. It is part of a worldview founded in the harmony of the cycles of the sky and balance in the forces of life. For the Kumeyaay, red and black represent the balance of those forces that provide for harmony within our bodies, as well as the world around us. As students, faculty, staff, and alumni of San Diego State University, we acknowledge this legacy from the Kumeyaay. And we promote this balance in life as we pursue our goals of knowledge and understanding. We find inspiration in the Kumeyaay spirit to open our minds and hearts. It is the legacy of the red and black. It is the land of the Kumeyaay. Now I'd like to have some really awesome transition between that and this, but I don't have one. All I can say is it matters that we remember, and it matters that we honor the people who came before. Yeah, still no transition, and that didn't work. Okay, yeah, in writing, we should always have beautiful transitions, and that just isn't it. So here we go. I want to start with these 5 foundational ideas about writing. These are things upon which this entire semester is based. My philosophy of teaching is based. Let me just share them quickly. You'll read about them a little bit more on the next page. First of all writers have more to learn. No matter how accomplished you are, no matter how much you think your writing is awful, we all have more to learn. And I hope this gives you hope in thinking about that. That nobody has it dialed in. Nobody, like writing is just a breeze all the time. It just doesn't happen. The second thing is that writing varies by situation and context. Depending on what we write differently. Depending on who we're writing to or why we're writing differently. It changes. The third thing is that writing is a process, but not the same process for every text or person. I have an entirely different process if I'm writing a blog post, a text, or an academic research paper. Entirely different. And somebody else might have a different process for writing a research paper than I do. It's okay. It's okay. There is no single process. The fourth thing, and I'll share more about this in just a moment, but writing or literacy involves aspects of identity. Who I am, all my experiences, the fact that I was born in this country, all of these things are part of my identity, and they impact the way I write. And who you are impacts your writing process. Again, more on that later. The fifth thing is writers learn from knowledgeable peers. We all learn from each other. And that's why this course is not an independent study course where you start on the first day, work your way through in, like, I don't know, 4 weeks, and you never interact with anybody else. No, there's going to be lots of interaction because we learn from each other. And because writing is so difficult, it's important that we learn from as many people, as many perspectives as we possibly can. Now, why does identity matter? Our identities shape our experiences, they shape our perspectives, and we learn when we listen to people whose identities, experiences, and perspectives are different than our own. Honestly, I learn from my students every single semester. It's one of the reasons why I like teaching so much, is because I learn. Your identity matters. Your experiences matter. Your perspectives matter. They matter to me, and they will matter to the rest of the class. There's me, there's my avatar from, when I had shorter hair and different classes. But it's still basically me jumping out of a screen. And here's the thing. You're getting a sense of who I am based on how I've written Canvas pages, based on the way I do videos, based on the vocabulary I use, the colors I use, the images I use. You are getting an idea of who I am. This is my identity, or at least you're seeing part of my identity. Honestly, I'm only going to share part of it with you because it just makes sense. We share the parts of our identity that are relevant for any situation. My friends that I play cards with, and yes, I play pinochle. It's an old person game. I freely acknowledge that, but I did start playing it when I was 19. So yeah, there you go. And here's another detail of my identity that you didn't know. I was old when I was 19. I'm actually younger now than I was then. My identity matters. It comes across in my writing. It comes across in my perspective and the way I teach. And we are continually sharing our identity, whether we are trying to or not. That's not fake. It is real. And the identity that I have in my faculty meetings is different than the identity I have with my friends who I hang out with in Ramona. And it's different than the tutors I work in the Writing Center. And it's different than in my classroom. We're always adapting to our audience and purpose. And we reveal bits and pieces of ourselves through our writing, and that's good because it helps us build ethos. That's a term you may or may not be familiar with. Aristotle came up with 3 rhetorical appeals. Ethos is the first one. And ethos is basically the trustworthiness of an author, or a speaker as determined by the audience. And my identity can help me build ethos with the people I am around. Aristotle said that in order to persuade, we have to demonstrate we're worth listening to and that we can be trusted. And he said there's 5 basic ways we do that. We can seem knowledgeable or experienced. We can seem objective or fair. We can seem like we share audience values. We can seem to show concern for the audience, and we can seem good or honorable or virtuous based on our audience. And so some of you might think I seem pretty trustworthy right now, and some of you are not entirely convinced. And it's probably because some of these 5 things. As we're writing, we want to think about what is your identity that makes you an authority that someone might want to listen to on this topic. Now, it might be some experiences you have. It might be some knowledge. It's not good to pretend that you have more knowledge than you do, because that's going to shine through. Well, not shine, but you know what I mean. It's going to come through. And so we're constantly thinking, what makes what I have to say matter? What part of my identity do I want to reveal to help me seem like I can be trusted? Bell Hooks, who is an activist and a feminist and a teacher, a scholar, she says in our everyday lives, we speak differently to diverse audiences, and we communicate best by choosing that way of speaking that's informed by the particularity and uniqueness of whom we are speaking to and with. In other words, we're going to change the way we speak, written or verbal, based on who our audience is. That's not fake. That is just persuasive. That is just appealing to that audience. That is connecting with that audience in some way. You're going to do a lot of audience connecting in this class. You're going to write a blog about something that matters to you. You're going to connect with your classmates through discussion board posts. You're going to have responsive and reflexive writings that are basically for you and me. Nobody else sees them. And so you can see that a blog and discussion board post might be for your written for students, and the reflexive writing is more private between us. And you can see how the way you write that might be different. The voice you adopt might be different. Saying it louder is different depending on who you're writing to. You're going to write 2 short time essays for the Union Tribune. These are your say essays about community issues, and you don't have to post it, send it off to the Union Tribune, but you could if you wanted. I've actually had about 10 students get published in the Union Tribune, and I'm just going to say I celebrate every time, and I hope that that is you. You're going to write a personal essay for another audience, an audience that you choose. And you're going to pretend like it's getting published in a magazine. And so you have to think about who's the audience for that magazine, who would care about what I'm going to write about. You're also going to create an application portfolio, which is going to include a resume and a cover letter written for a specific hiring organization based on a very real job or internship posting. And so all your styles of writing are going to shift. Just a real quick tip. Again, really bad transition, but all good. Read every Canvas page. I know. I've taken Canvas courses myself, and sometimes I just don't want to. Sometimes I want to skip the video. Sometimes I want to skip the instruction. But honestly, all these short readings and videos will help you with the major projects. And quite honestly, that's what I've always figured out when I take Canvas courses, is that I really can't skip anything. So some I can go through faster than others, but some I have to read more than once to get the gist of it. So one thing that you're going to notice, and this is the very last slide, is every Saturday you're going to have a reflection and direction question. Basically going to cover like where you are in the learning process. I'm going to have a basic check-in question like, how are you doing? I started doing that in March 2020. And, like it seems a little less necessary than it did when we were all traumatized by campus shutting down abruptly. But even so, I've continued that practice. You can just say, I'm good, or you can just skip the question altogether. I'm going to ask you some very specific questions, and you reflect on the week's instructions, your learning process, something specific we read, and then I'm going to ask you a question about what's coming up next. And easy points if you demonstrate that you have been paying attention. You'll just get all those points. And that's it.